What's up, what's up? Welcome back. Today we're working on my terminal emulator. His name is Termy. His source code's on GitHub. And we're a couple weeks in, I think. Let's see. First commit 2 weeks ago-ish. Yeah, and what we're at right now is we have like a terminal emulator who kind of works, right? So if I cargo run, we have like this guy. I can type like ls, I get some stuff. I can type ls a few more times. I can press up arrow and get ls. I get like a little bit of a scroll back. You know, if I say like cat test.c, right, I scroll up, we still see our LSs. Great. I can clear, and I can say like git log, and he's gonna give me something that I can like scroll around in with colors and shit, you know. So we're getting somewhere. And the way all of this works is you have like this thing is called a terminal emulator because we are emulating like a terminal from like the 70s, like a VT100 or something. So, you know, this guy has like a keyboard and a monitor. And back in the day, you know, you have cursor control and stuff is like handled like on device on this guy. So you have like your computer and he's like connected to this guy. He's got like serial ports for like input and output. And this guy's doing all of like the rendering locally, right? What we have on our computers now is the same computer that's like rendering, like running bash is the same computer that's like rendering the cursor, but we're kind of like in backwards compatible mode with this thing from way back when. And so like, you know, you have like this like TTY driver that lives like in the kernel, and he in like this scheme, or maybe even like in the scheme of like you're doing kernel development on like another like a firmware device, you might still use this scheme where you have like this guy's like kind of like attached to like a UART driver that has like, you know, just like two data lines, input output. But like in our case, we have like this like pseudo terminal that like acts a lot like this UART, except it's kind of backed by like file descriptors. So like on our computer, we have this guy, he's like a little application in our computer, and he's talking to this PTY like this terminal would talk to the UART, essentially. That's kind of like the gist of it. And so like if you want to do stuff like move the cursor, execute a backspace, overwrite some text, there's a bunch of like in-band data that comes over this line called like escape codes, ANSI codes, I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to call them. And so a lot of the work that we've done so far is just kind of like trying to like parse that data that's coming in, figure out what do we display, what's like a cursor movement, what say like, you know, what do they do when they ask for like bold text, stuff like that. And we come, you know, some way, but you know, it's definitely not usable yet. And so what I kind of wanted to try to do today was I don't really know what like the next steps are exactly. I don't know what I want to tackle next. I don't know what it's capable of right now. So I kind of thought I'll try to use it. Try like, what do I usually do in my terminal? Well, you know, most of the time I'm sitting here in NeoVim editing code, right? So it's like, you know, what do I have to do to get this working? Because then once we get to the point where I could use it like this, then we can start dogfooding and finding problems, you know, as we go. And so I think I want to do that. And I think that like if the goal is to like become usable, there's a couple other things I want to tackle first. Just like, you know, quality of life things. So if I run this guy, he's fixed at like this size, right? So I can't resize the window. Resizing the window does nothing. The red area is like what the application sees of the terminal no matter what. So I kind of want to be able to do that. And I also want to be able to like resize the text because like, you know, maybe it's a little big, maybe it's a little small. It would just be nice to like have that configuration. So I want to hit those two real quick. I think that those won't be very hard to implement. And then I want to try like running NeoVim and being like, well, you know, why doesn't this work? Right? I'm in insert mode. I'm trying to type stuff. What the fuck is going on? You know, I hit escape here. Like escape isn't doing anything, so I have to like use like one of these like control codes, I think, and then I have to like queue all, like you know, this is clearly broken, right? Is the the gist of it here. So I want to look at what do we have to do to make that work. And I think let's just hop in. So the first thing I want to do is make this window resizable because if I were to use this thing for real, I wouldn't use it in this tiny window. I'd use it in something bigger like this, right? And so I think where I want to go here is I want to go, let's see. There's like two kind of areas here. There's like terminal emulator, which is like kind of like you can like view it as like the back end of our application. So he holds like this like file descriptor to the terminal, right? And this file descriptor is like sending a bunch of shit this way into the terminal emulator. And maybe like when we have input, we're like sending stuff into it, right? This is like our input and output with bash. And he does stuff like he has like a buffer of characters, right? And he knows that if somebody says like, oh, I want to move the cursor here and then write some text, he keeps track of that and like puts the text in the right spot in the buffer. Then we have like a GUI that sits on top, and he like talks to this guy. He like feeds him input, and also feeds him like displays what is like currently in the buffer. And this guy will say the terminal emulator backend, whatever you want to call it. He's gonna feed him like, you know, here's like what's the scroll back, and here's the color info associated with these characters, stuff like that. And so if we want to like resize our application, or like resize the terminal emulator, there's like two things we have to do, right? One is like track the like size of the GUI, like which is already kind of done, right? The GUI technically can be resized, right? I can resize this window, but like it's not doing anything related to like the terminal emulator. So one is like we need to change the size of like this screen that the terminal emulator is holding, right? Make them say like, okay, well, when the GUI resizes, how many characters wide is that and stuff like that. And we also have to inform child processes about that change. So like, you know, on the other side of this file descriptor, you have like bash, or maybe like something, a better example is like less, right? Like the pager. And he also needs to know the terminal size to know like what to draw, essentially, right? Because when I run like, if I run like git log and I like resize this, less is like aware of the width and height of the terminal and is like appropriately wrapping text and stuff like that. So we have to inform the child process as well. Which I think we already have support for to some extent. When we start up our terminal emulator, we call this ioctl to set the window size. So here we have this like, we're using this like ioctl wrapper, which is essentially saying like out of band, here are some like configurations that I can execute on this file descriptor that will, and one of them is like, please set the win size with TIOC swinsiz. You know, terminal ioctl set window size, I bet. Not sure. And so what we should do is we should like add an API to like change that, essentially. So we can say like pub function set win size, and he's going to take in like width car in characters and height in characters. And what does he have to do? He has to set the window size. So do this, but with height cars as, I think this is a U16, and width cars as U16. I misspelled width again. And before, he also has to set up like the buffer sizes as well. So you have to say like self terminal buffer set win size. Yeah, width cars and height cars. So this part should inform the child process, and then we just have to set up like our internal wrapping and stuff. So that will be on this terminal buffer guy, and he's gonna have a function set win size. He's going to take in himself by immutable reference, and he's going to take in the width and height, and he's going to say self width is equal to width, and self height is equal to height. Is there anything else we actually like need to do here? I don't think so, because like what happens is every frame we like ask for this data, and we like stupidly recalculate all of the like wrapping and stuff every single frame, which like maybe is wrong, right? Maybe we should be caching that. But for now, that's what we're doing. And so I don't think there's anything that actually has to change here. I don't think. So maybe we just say we're good to go. Maybe. I guess we'll see. It'll become pretty apparent pretty quickly if this is broken. So let's go into our GUI. And we render everything like inside a like frame of a fixed size, right? So if I like run this guy, give him a sec. If I type debug render, right, this like red box is like where we're rendering the terminal, and that's actually like useful, I think, right? Because it handles, well, that's a bad example, but here it's handling like wrapping for us, right? Because this word is too long, but because we're like cut off at the end of this frame, we need to like it'll wrap automatically, and I think that we need the GUI to be wrapping because like the guy under the hood, he's returning like strings of text and just assuming that it will wrap at the like correct width. So let's just, I guess we'll leave this frame in, but we will say that his size is like, I guess like the number of characters we can fit on the screen. So we say like we have our character size. We'll say let character size equal to self character size as ref unwrap. And our like width in characters is going to be like the UI available width, you know, how much do we have, divided by the character size in X, the width of the character. That's how many characters we can fit. And the height characters is the same, but for height. And here, when we set width, I guess we are setting now, what? Like, we first we need to, like, tell the terminal of this size. So it's, like, width cars, height cars, as usize. And I guess in here, we actually should be, like, only sending this signal if it's changed. I think that's reasonable, because otherwise we're going to be, like, spamming child processes with, like, signal interrupts every single frame. Like, 60 times a second, they're going to get an interrupt saying, like, oh, change the window size, which I think is bad. So maybe what we'll do here is we'll say, we'll return a Boolean from here who's tracking our size, and he'll just be like, did I change? And we'll say if changed is equal to self width not equals width, or height not equals height. Then we just return changed, and then we only send this guy if changed. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Reasonable. Okay, so now we can set this on every frame, and that's fine. No problem, unless we are resizing. And now here we set the width. I guess we need to like floor. So we have like our available width here, but it might be like a little bit bigger than a character. So maybe we, I guess we're flooring, so it should be fine. I guess we just set the frame. Can we just say like set width to available width? Is that fair? I guess there might be some padding here, so maybe we should do this stuff inside the frame. I don't know if that's reasonable or not. I don't know if these guys need to be like truncated a little bit to like really tighten up the packing, but we can check. Okay. So now I have my frame is kind of taking up the whole thing. There's some clear problem happening here. What, like, why did extra dollar signs show up? That's not good. Can I clear and then try again? Like, what caused that? That was really strange. Was it on first run? Resize? Why did that happen? Oh, there we go. It was something about scrolling up and down. Yeah. I see. So something about up and down. Interesting. Why the fuck is that happening? Oh, we need to update the cursor position. Maybe. Maybe? Who's writing this stuff? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I bet what's happening. Is we are telling Bash we resize the window. Bash is like rewriting its prompt line, maybe. And then we're writing to the wrong spot. Maybe? Can we kind of like log incoming data and just kind of see? So we can say std stir from UTF-8, incoming, unwrap. And we should see whatever bash is sending us. And we should see, this will help us bisect if it's like a display bug or like an input bug. So if I resize this, yeah. Interesting. So you can see that like when I'm resizing the window, bash is rewriting the prompt line for some reason. I don't know why it's deciding to do that, but it's sending a carriage return. Oh, because it wants to clear out anything in the line that is seen, I guess. Sure. It's kind of fun. You can kind of like draw something here. Okay. So when we're getting data in, we're like writing to some cursor position. And I guess maybe there's a chance that cursor position hasn't been updated correctly. So we can say, I guess we want the cursor to stay in the same spot relative to all the stuff in the text, right? So when we reduce the width of this guy, all of the characters are rewrapping, right? And like our cursor could actually like move down relative to where it was before if all of the text above it pushed it a little bit. Which I don't really see a reason for why that would be what we're seeing right now. But maybe. So we could do something like here. We could say maybe we take in the cursor position here as well. And maybe we do something like struct set terminal buffer set win size response. And here he's going to say, here's a new cursor position that you should reset to. And also, here is like whether or not it changed. And now instead of returning this bool, he's going to return a terminal buffer set win size response. Terminal buffer set win size response. And here's going to have changed. And for now, we're going to just say new cursor pause is cursor pause. Just so that things compile. And then we can go back to the users of this guy, and we can say changed. Let response do this. We say if response change, we send some stuff to the child process. And then we also have to say let self cursor state position is equal to self dot or response new cursor pause. Okay. And here we pass in self cursor state pause. Okay. Cool. So here we need to say, we need to like extract where in the buffer the cursor is. So our buffer is kind of like structured as you know, I have like ASDF \n makes a new line, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Say we're like wrapping every 10 characters, then we would have something like this, right? And these are like the bytes in the buffer, but they're like displayed like this. And then say the cursor is like somewhere like here, because the cursor pause doesn't have to be in the buffer. When we write, in this case, we go like, oh shit, they're trying to write over here. So like, let's insert a new line here, here. Right? Like we're going to put in a bunch of new lines and then put in some spaces like here and here and here so that, oh, sorry, the cursor's here. So we actually do something like put in spaces so that the cursor can point to somewhere valid, then we write into it. That's what we do on write. But at this point in time, when we're setting cursor position, you know, that doesn't exist yet. So I guess we just have to do that thing where we like pad the buffer so that there's a buffer position that we can remember when we resize. I think that's reasonable. So we can say like, hey, let's pretend we're like doing a write here, and we can look at our like current width and current height. I think those are the right arguments. We also need the buffer that we're padding. And let's just say that we're writing nothing. And then we can say cursor buff pause, we'll call it. This is where in the buffer the cursor is supposed to be. I'm calling this wrong. I forgot cursor pause. Okay. Oops. So this is where in the buffer we're supposed to be. Does he not like this? Why doesn't he like this? Pad buffer for right. Oh, it's the right length. So this is just 0. We're doing like a 0 length right, but this will probably make sure that the padding all ends up in the right spot. And then we can say that the new cursor position is, we have like buff to cursor pause. Yep, that already exists. And we just we pass in the buffer, width, height, and the buff pause. So buff, width, height, buff pause. Okay. And now we can return new cursor pause. Great. And maybe that works. Maybe? I don't really know. But we could try it. And I guess if not changed, maybe we short circuit this stuff. And we can return early and say, here you go. Just use the old cursor position, please. And yeah, we're chilling. Return. There we go. There we go. So let's try that and see if that looks any different. Fuck. That's not good. So what did we see we saw before? Okay, that looks okay, but ls, we're seeing some problems with the cursor being in the wrong spot. But if I type, the text is coming to the wrong spot, which kind of makes me think it's like a cursor rendering bug, right? Because that kind of indicates that the cursor tracking is working correctly, I think. I guess we can find out by logging the cursor position and then counting. So every time we input, maybe we just like print line the cursor position after everything is written in, maybe. So down here, we can do like let's print out the cursor state pause. Okay. I think that should be fine. That should tell us. Okay, so now we're saying fuck. Okay. So 1, we're crashing here. Buff to cursor pause. Ooh, that's kind of fun. Buff pause minus new cursor line start. This is fun. I wonder where that crash came from. That's surprising to me. Definitely surprising to me. Maybe, is that happening a lot? Okay. So that's happening consistently on Resize. So maybe we run rust backtrace equals 1. Holy fuck me. That's a big backtrace. Okay, all of this stuff is GUI stuff, and we only get into our code down here. So it's when we set the window size, buff to cursor pause is overflowing because the buff position is smaller than the new cursor line start. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe we do a little Rust GDB target debug termy. Okay. Fuck, we need GDB, so we kill this neovim, nix shell, p GDB, and give it a sec, run this again, and then I think it's break rust panic. Yeah, and then we run, and then we can just do this resize, and we can go up and we can look at what the fuck is going on here. Frame 7. So we have, I would like to see the code next to this. So we can look at mod rs and go to the line 439. So we're here, and we can say, what the fuck is buff pause here? 2. Buff is, sure, this is going to be like 0, 1, 2. That's a reasonable buffer position. That makes sense. And which of the, like, oh, fuck. Which of the buff to cursor pause are we in? We're in 624. So, oh, there's only one, right? So we've padded the buffer, theoretically. And we are now trying to get the buffer position with the new width and height. So we can say the buffer position is 2. That's correct. Buffer is reasonable. P self, P buff. No, P buff. Oh, it thinks the size is 712. That's kind of fucking weird. Why does it think that? Oh, because we've been resizing this thing over and over again when we expand and reduce it. Sure, so there's been a bunch of spaces injected by bash, I guess, on resize. Okay. So what is new cursor align? Can I start 65 and 98? So he's just like completely calculated the wrong line. Like, what the fuck? Can we look at, like, the line ranges? Oh. So because there were so many spaces on the right, when I reduce the size of the window, it thinks all of those spaces are still there. Yeah. So I think what happened was we had like a little thing like this, you know, $ space cursor. And then bash has been like inserting this, like, when the window is resized, bash is like inserting shit like this for some fucking reason. I guess the idea is maybe we had like, it's trying to clear it out, I guess. So it's trying to say, like, make sure that there's nothing in this whole area. So it's putting a bunch of spaces there. Then I'm resizing the window down like this. So now all those spaces are still there, but they're like kind of like crammed into like this area here. And if like this is the top of my window, maybe I still have like the $ cursor up here, right? But now all of these spaces are like filling up all of the visible space. And so I can't place the cursor where it was before because it's off screen. And so I guess, what the fuck do other terminals do in this scenario? So we can say set prompt, it's like export prompt command, or unset prompt command, okay, and then set export ps1 is equal to $ space, okay, clear, and let's increase the font size a lot, okay, and if I like, oh, this isn't happening here though because it's using the wrong term info. Fuck me, man. So bash is only doing this like carriage return space thing because it thinks that I don't support cursor movement. So I can't really like compare behavior here because it's not, bash isn't doing the same thing. Fuck. I think what is reasonable to me is just to say in this condition, if there are no lines that we can go into, just set the position to 1, like 0, 0. I think that's reasonable. And maybe print a warning there because I don't really like, I'm not convinced that that's correct. But we can say if buff pause is less than new cursor line start, we return print line buff pause cannot convert old cursor position no longer on screen. That seems like a reasonable log there. And then we return 0. New cursor x equal this, else we do what we were doing before. Okay. So can we quit this cargo run? Doesn't like that semicolon? Sure. And we need a semicolon here now. Got it. Got it. So now, no more crashes. It's behaving super fucking weird now. In that case, but yeah, that's kind of fucked up. But maybe in like the rest, generally he's feeling pretty okay. There are some scenarios where it's kind of fucked, but like when it's, oh, even that feels fine actually. Yeah, that's not that bad. That's not that bad. Okay. In fact, yeah, I think that's totally reasonable. I can't really make it do that stupid shit very easily. Maybe it was on the first. Yeah, there's something about initial state. And there's also something about I'm not rendering the cursor where the text is going in, which is kind of weird. Because here it thinks cursor x2, y10, that's reasonable. Fuck, I lost it. Let's try this again. So resize a bunch initially. Okay, x2, y1 for my cursor position is correct. But now, like, it's doing some weird shit. Like, how do I see... Maybe I want to see, like, what is in my backlog here. Debug render. So this is what it thinks my buffer looks like here. This is what it thinks is in scroll back. And it would be interesting to see if that's actually, like, is there some inconsistency here between what we're rendering and what it thinks is stored? Because, like, this is fucked. So how do we look at that? We want to maybe just print out when we retrieve all data that we're trying to render. Maybe we log out what's in like the current screen. Seems reasonable. So that's going to be in the terminal mod. In the terminal mod, let's try to print out what it thinks is currently on screen. And then we can see if it's like a render issue or like a data issue. So that's here, and I guess here. Data. Yes, and we have visible data. And so maybe we just say let ret is equal to this. And we return ret, and we say print line self ret visible. And we need to make it like a string, so it's nice to look at. Stood stir from UTF-8 unwrap. Okay. Okay, maybe this will give me some form of clue. Okay, so I resize. Holy fuck, this is confusing. So it does think the cursor, it's rendering the cursor in the correct spot. Yet, I don't know why this has happened. And it's too hard to scroll up and figure it out. Because I'm just getting spammed with shit. I guess when we are resizing, Bash must think. Huh. I want to see, like, what the fuck Bash is doing. So I wonder if we can do... okay. I wonder if we can, like, simulate this sequence without so much spam. Let's stop printing the cursor state every time. We believe that that's correct. And maybe we just print incoming every time. That seems reasonable. And so when I run this, we should see what Bash is sending to us. Which is this garbage. Which is fine. If I resize vertically, oh. Hold on. Okay, so I'm getting some old cursor positions no longer on screen, which is reasonable, right? So slowly going up is reasonable. And then I come back down. And here's probably where the problem is that when I come back down, Bash doesn't realize that more stuff has come onto the screen, I guess. It's like resetting the line I'm on over and over again. Is it? I'm gonna make sure I've got the order right here. Am I resizing before I read from the terminal? Because I guess you also should take into account that before the resize, there could be like data in the buffer that we're like caching. We need to process that at the old size. So maybe in the GUI, we need to make sure that when we set the size, this is happening after we read data. So where is that coming from? That's coming way up here. So that should be the case. We should be processing all data that was incoming at the old terminal resolution. So there's no mismatch there. That seems reasonable. And now, so it's just about like... Okay, so we resize. Stuff is in the scroll back, and it's slowly coming back out. And that's reasonable. Except for the fact that spaces are coming in. Oh, because Bash injected all of these spaces, and so now... No. I'm missing something. Because here he's saying, hey, I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to carriage return, and I'm going to put my new line right there. And it's like, if it's carriage returning at the cursor, then why am I getting like left padded here ever? It must be that like stuff in the scroll back is like somehow leaking. I wonder if like the rendered width here is like slightly off. Let me try setting the width and height here to be exactly the width and characters. So we can say width cars. So this guy, first of all, should be floored. Both of these guys. Yes. So the width and height should be like the max. Like if I have half a character that fits, fuck that. It's no longer like we can't say that we support half a character. We should floor it. And then we'll take like the width in characters and convert that back to pixels. Width chars times character size 0. And this is height cars times character size 1. And so now when I turn on that like debug view, we should see the box kind of like increasing in size or decreasing in like increments of 1 character. Right? It's kind of like jumping around now. And now if I do this, we're getting the same behavior. Okay. I almost wonder if like the scroll back shouldn't come back onto screen. That would solve this. I don't know if it's like correct, but it sure would help. Right? If the scroll back didn't leak back in, then that would be fine. So maybe when we set the window size, we pad buffer for right, no data at the height of the window. So we can say let temp cursor pause is equal to cursor pause, and he's going to say 0, or x 0, y self height minus 1, I think. Probably. The index has to be 1 minus the length. And then we can say temp cursor pause here. Maybe. Okay. So then, hopefully there's like extra shit at the end so it doesn't like spill off. Not quite. That did help, though. To some extent. There's something wrong going on here still. Man, I thought this was going to be like a quick little quality of life fix, but this is turning out to be quite the pain in my ass. Oh, oops. I'm not padding at the right size. Oops, this has to come after this. Let's try that again. Try that again. Okay. Okay, so that's good. We're padding. We're definitely padding when we come. Something's wrong here still. It looked better for a second. Okay, so I come up. There's nothing. Come down. We're getting a bunch of... See, this is still not what I expect, right? I expect that when I come down, there should be nothing leaking on. So there's something wrong here. Something wrong. We are padding the buffer so that we could write at the height minus 1. Can we like trim lines? Is that reasonable? That doesn't seem reasonable. Like say somebody's actually outputting a bunch of spaces. We don't want to like delete those. Okay. So what the fuck do we do here? Like clearly this isn't doing what I think it should. Because when I like expand the window, I would expect there to be no extra text, but that's not happening. I guess. Oh, I guess because like we're padding the buffer, but it's already been resized. So we kind of need to like insert new lines to push old stuff off, I guess. Yeah. So, okay, can we pad buffer for right? He lets me push off the end of the screen. So I actually want to do something more like before I adjust the height. at the old size, I want to pad for how many new lines there are. So it's like so I have like height lines could be like 10. And I could have like self height could be like 6, right? And in this case I want to add 4 lines to the buffer if they're not already there. So this is kind of like at the old position, we're trying to write to height lines. Yeah, so I think we just do y is height minus 1. And so this will be like 10, or not, yeah, 9 in this case, index 9. And we're going to be trying to write index 9, but with a height of index 6, we'll be padding. I think everything will just work, maybe. Then we adjust the width and height. And so then, hopefully, okay, I decrease size, increase size. Fuck! Fuck me, man. I mean, the other trick we could do is we could just clear it. We could just clear the buffer every time I resize the window. Which is kind of like a hack, but that would help. I don't understand why this isn't working. I really don't. Because after this, we should be seeing like a ton of new lines at the end here. So let me think. Add buffer for right with the old height at the... Oh, we need to use the new width, maybe? There's something about this where it's like, we need to make sure that it's wrapping correctly. So if we add new lines so that at the new width... something about this is fucked. Something about this is fucked. Could also be that we need to calculate the new buff cursor position after some shit. That shouldn't make a difference. Shouldn't make a difference. I guess we could try test resize. Test resize expand. And what we want to do is we need to make sure that larger windows keep that on window size increase. Text stays in same spot relative to cursor position. I think that's what we want. So like we have something at cursor position 1, 1. I guess we can just like write our test here, or like we can just simulate what's happening. So we have like a terminal buffer. He's like, 10 by 3. And if we set the size to okay, then we need to put in like maybe like 6 lines of data. Okay. So how does this work? We put in a cursor pause. So we'll just say for now that we're at x0, y0. And we'll just put in the cursor pause and some data. So we need to make sure that there's like enough so that when we expand, right? So we have like ASDF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, and then like X, Y, Z, W. right? So this is 5 lines of data in a 3 tall canvas, right? And so right now, if we say canvas.data visible, we should get something like just the last 3 lines, right? So we should see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, X, Y, Z, W. I think. Let's run that test and just make sure that passes right now. Not quite, because he has a new line appended at the end all the time, which might be a bug, might not be. Okay, that's passing. And so now if we say, hey, let's set the window size to, 10 by 5. With the current cursor position. I guess we say with the new cursor position. So we say let response is equal to is equal to something. Let response is equal to this. Hold on, my dog's kind of like going crazy under the desk. 1 second. Ginger, come here. 1 sec. 1 sec. All right. All right. All right. All right. No, no, no. Stay over there. Nope. Okay, sorry. So we are trying to... No. Get out. Good girl. What are we doing? We are trying to say at the new cursor position, that's where our cursor currently is. We are trying to resize the window. And then we say response equal this. And if we were to look at the data now, we're kind of hoping that we see something like this, right? So that like we're kind of padded so that the end of the screen is like we're still seeing the data that we saw before. That's what I want to see. And instead, we're going to see something else. Oh, wait, that's working. Okay, that's interesting. What if we resize... Oh, that's okay. So that's a really good clue. So if I run this, and I wonder if I only resize vertically. Okay, so clearly this is a different case than what I just tested. Nuh-uh. Go back. Like, because my test succeeded, and this is not. Why is that the case? Because Bash is putting in a bunch of, like, fucking carriage returns and new line. Carriage return and this thing. So maybe we can assume that the number of carriage returns here is going to be, or the number of spaces here is probably the width of the terminal at that point in time. So maybe we say we reduce this to 10. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nope. Out of here. Sorry, she's feeling it. Okay, but I guess these carriage returns get kind of parsed out by the parser and get turned into cursor moves. So we're kind of like inserting 10 spaces, then resetting the cursor, then setting the $sign here. So it's kind of like doing like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We insert data. This stuff. Sorry, we insert these spaces. Okay, then we set the cursor position back to 0, 0. and we insert $ thing like this. And this is response. We probably want to always use the response cursor position. No, because we're manually resetting. Okay. Okay. So that's really all they're doing here. Do you know if the bash behavior is doing a workaround for some other terminal's weirdness? I think what's happening here is bash is kind of trying to... it's assuming that I can't like do cursor moves, so it's using carriage returns and entering a bunch of spaces as a way to like make sure that the line that you're trying to write to looks clear. I'm pretty sure. Okay, so that's what should happen here. And so maybe we can say, we'll maybe make this into a function. Nah, I don't know, it's fine. And so like, we're kind of seeing this happen every time we resize the screen. Great. And okay, this is only happening on resize. So there's probably something else here where the sequence is like set window size. Then we get this stuff. Then we set window size again. Right? It's probably something like set window size here. With the current cursor position. I guess probably initially he is getting data inserted like this, right? We've got $ thing. We are then setting the size with the new cursor position. And then bash goes, oh shit, it's resize time. And does this. And then we say we got a carriage return. So we set the cursor position X to 0 because we got a carriage return. And then we insert this again. Maybe we should log this stuff to make sure. So maybe we say here, print line, set window size to width by height. Okay. Then when we push data in, we'll also write that we are writing this. Yes, 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 yes. Date stood stir from UTF-8 data. Okay. Unwrap. And we'll get rid of this other print line of incoming data. Okay. So now we should see... Oh, oops, this set window size. Maybe we only log on change size. That will make our lives a little bit simpler. Okay. So, first of all, if I scroll up here, there's like a ton of shit, which is kind of weird. Because someone set the window size to 712 by 356 on first iteration. And then they're like, oh, fuck, that's not the size of the window. So that's a little concerning. So we have to think about that. Then we have this like scroll back that I think is reasonable. Okay. And so now when I decrease size, nothing crazy. But because the old cursor position is no longer on screen, our scroll back now has a bunch of these new lines. Okay, and then I bring it back down. Okay, so I think bash is never writing anything except for these things. Okay, and maybe we should, just for good measure, we should be saying writing this at this cursor position. That makes sense to me. So everything is at... I see. So it's on the way down. The cursor position is increasing, which makes sense. Okay. This is all starting to make sense. So what is the test case here? The sequence is resize smaller, bash resets line, resize bigger, old lines are in view. And that's what we're trying to avoid. That's all we're trying to avoid, is that we want to make sure the old lines stay out of view, and that should help in some way. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so we need some function here to be like, maybe we'll do like function, simulate resize. And we pass in the like width, height. And what is the sequence? It's set window size, write the spaces, write the fucking new line. Okay. So we issue the resize to width and height. And I guess we need the cursor position as well. We'll pass in the cursor position here. Okay. Then what? Then bash says, okay, we'll make this mutable. We'll say response new response new hello. Why is there no new cursor pause associated with this? Oh, because canvas doesn't exist here, so we need the canvas as well. So the canvas is a mute terminal buffer. Okay. So now we have new cursor pause, x is equal to 0. Then we insert data. Yes, yes, yes. At the new cursor position, but we insert, I guess it's something like vec of space width times. Oopsies. Yes, that seems reasonable. This is a byte string and a byte character string, and then we put an ampersand here. Okay. Then he sets the cursor pause back to x again. 0 again. He's like, do new character turn, and now I want to insert this. Sick. So now we should be able to simulate the same behavior here. We can call simulate resize with our canvas. And the width, 10, height. Maybe we'll start at 5, right? And then we'll go down to 4 with the current cursor pause. I guess before anything, we do have at least one of the bash prompts inserted. So we'll say, here we go. So we resize one smaller, and then one smaller again. Okay, then we go back up. Cool. And then we'll print line, what do we see right now? Which is canvas data visible as a string. And then we'll assert false so we see the print. He doesn't like this. Why not? Because this guy doesn't say he returns anything, which he should return a terminal buffer set win size response. Okay. Still no good. Terminal buffer. Oh, it's insert response. Is what we're actually returning. Okay. So now at the end, we have this like double new line. Jesus, what the fuck is this? We have some spaces, space, $, space, $, new line. So this looks like totally fucking wrong, which is a good sign that it's broken and our test is testing the right thing, right? Because what we want to see is simply that the canvas data visible is, we expect it to be, starts with, we expect to see only the prompt line. That's actually data visible like this. We kind of expect to see like prompt line, maybe followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of what I want to see at the end of this. And that's not at all what we're seeing. We're seeing some fucking shit. Oops, not that. Cargo test. Right. Okay. So now we have something that we can kind of start to like debug. So after the first resize, we go down 1 in size. We expect the visible data to be kind of just this, right? Just the prompt line, nothing else. I think. Let's do this. We will copy paste this here. We'll print out, what do we see? And maybe we print out what's in the scroll back as well. Okay. So we'll say scroll back is this, and visible is this. And maybe we'll even put some quotes around it so that it doesn't look so shit. Okay. So we have scroll back, nothing, visible, wrong. That's a really good clue. Really good clue. So even like the first resize is like fucking shit up. And why is that? Why is that? Did I put in too many spaces? No. Maybe we'll also start logging in here. Visible after resize, visible after spaces, and visible after prompt. Let's see the whole shebang. The whole shebang. Okay, so we have visible after resize. Totally reasonable. 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 lines. And then we replace this with spaces, okay. But we write this at a fucked up cursor position when we put the prompt line in. Okay, is that a mistake in this? Could be. Yes, it is. Okay. So that was a bug in the test, not a bug in the actual code, I think. Okay, so this is, yeah, I think everything's fine now. Let's go back to deleting these print lines, and we'll go back to showing everything. Clearly we need to test for the tests. Yes, of course. Of course we need to test for the tests. Okay, so now we have, this is a more expected failure, what we're having now. Okay, so we've like resized the window down then back up, and we're now getting 2 lines of prompts on screen, but that makes sense because at one point we had to like rewrite the prompt because it wasn't visible. The other prompt got injected into the scroll back, and then we pull the thing back down, and the scroll back's like leaking back into the visible view. So I think like at this point, before the increase in size, we should be able to say that we have 1, 2, 3 new lines. Like this should pass, right? And the scroll back at this point, after we've resized down twice, this probably looks something like this. I'm not quite sure about that, but we'll see. 1277. Yeah, so this, I got the scroll back one fucked up. Can we print line scroll back like this? It stood stir from UTF-8 canvas data scroll back. I just want to double check. I think that we should have 2 extra prompt lines kind of sitting in there in the scroll back. I think. We have 1. Surprising. Oh, because initially we don't have like the new line padded shit. So can we 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe we need this in order for that to work the way I'm expecting. No, it's still... Huh, alright. So why... I'm misunderstanding something then. The thing is only getting pushed into scroll back. Oh, because on the first one we haven't done like this garbage, I guess. Sure. So maybe instead of inserting data ever, we pretend the first thing that happens is a resize to the current size. Oh, but that doesn't work either. Okay, fuck it. I don't know. We'll just start at... We'll say that the first case is behaving differently. So we say, okay, we'll resize from 6 down to 5, down to 4, down to 3. And now I should expect to see 2 padded new lines. I think. I don't fucking know, man. This is confusing. Yes, okay, so the scroll back has 2 sets of new lines here. Makes sense. And now it's just when we go back up, we just have to write the code to not pull that shit back in. That seems fine. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And can we look at the scroll back too here, actually? You know, is there anything... Is the scroll back, like, just not being padded correctly? Scroll back. Visible. At the end, after everything's been said and done, is there duplication in the scroll back? I would assume not. Oh, so in the scroll back I have 2 sets. Then in the visible I have some extra shit here. I see. Okay. Okay. So it must be something like on set window size here. I'm padding buffer for right so that my cursor position stays in the same spot relative to the screen. That makes sense. I'm making sure that where the cursor is, we have data. Got it. Then we say here is the new cursor position. We don't really care about that. That's fine. That doesn't matter right now. And then we say, hey, let's try to make sure that we have enough new lines at the end of the thing so that the cursor stays in the same spot. Ah, okay, so this is where it gets kind of interesting. So here, new cursor pause, the cursor pause shouldn't change. Yes, okay. It's all, I think it's starting to come together. So we can say that the, after we pad, we want to assert that the new cursor pause is equal to the original cursor position. That's what we want to happen at the end of all of this. Cursor pause doesn't have a equals thing, but we can add one. Okay. And cursor pause has been consumed or something. Oh, maybe we need to put an ampersand on this so that the equals thing works. Okay. And now, I bet you when we cargo test, that's gonna crash. Yes. Left 0 0, right 2 0. So this is where it's getting interesting. So why is that? We have our buffer. What are we doing in here? We're like looking at the lines, trying to figure out where it must be in the padding. It must be. Maybe? Fuck my head. So we are this pad buffer. Maybe. Sorry, my dog's doing like laps around my apartment. She's clearly like amped up and it's distracting. Okay. Okay. So let's good girl. Let's look at this padding. Maybe is this wrong? Is this wrong? So we're trying to say, hey, at the new height, relative to the old height, I want to make sure that there's enough new lines in here. That doesn't sound right to me. There's something about this that feels wrong. This I'm confident in, that the buffer position is correct here. In fact, we can say here, hey, let's print out what is a buff pause, right? Let's just see what the fuck we have, or data after buff pause, right? Let's just kind of see what the fuck is that. And we should see kind of nothing, right? Because the cursor is coming in after he's written the prompt line, so we should kind of like to see like only spaces and new lines. Really. So he's like a stood stir from UTF-8 of self buff pause onwards. Okay. So we should see kind of nothing important in there. And that lines up, right? He's inserted he's got a bunch of spaces, a bunch of new lines. Fine. No big deal. And can we look at it again after this padding? Data after buff pause after the padding. And it's exactly the same. Okay. Sure. Oh. This new cursor position. Hold on. When things go off screen. Oh, we clamp it, so that's fine. That should be fine. That should be fine. So we're kind of in the state where our x is wrong. Why is our x wrong? Okay, so right is x equals 2. The old cursor pause was x equals 2. The new cursor pause is x equals 0 because of this short circuit that we added today, which makes sense, right? We say like, oh, we're not on the screen anymore, go back to 0 0. And then bash should carriage return and insert the fucking $signs. So like, maybe this assertion is not fair because x can reset. So maybe we delete this assertion. Maybe that's fine. Okay. So we're just kind of saying like that's fine, I guess. We're saying like, hey, we've padded data. Can we just maybe then like what the fuck is the problem? Cargo test. Like what are we freaking out about? So oh, the only thing that the only assertion that's failing is this guy's padded a bunch. So it's 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that the only problem? Is everything else like succeeding? Oh, okay. So that seems like reasonable to some extent. Like there's no bug here so far, right? We resize down, resize up, and we padded the bottoms that like nothing's kind of like leaking back in. But that's not matching what we were seeing here, right? When I come down, oh wait. Maybe it's just fixed. Maybe at some point during that unit test fix up, the code was fixed as well. It's just fine. I mean, our scroll back is just like absolutely fucking atrocious, right? But we don't care about that right now because like, and then if I go down and then back up, I don't like that. I don't like that when I come down and back up. But I guess like we were kind of arguing that this is a workaround for the bullshit. So maybe that's fine. I'll allow it, I guess. I don't like what's happening here, where the label that's being written is bigger than the frame size. He's getting an extra new line in there. But like not all the time. You know what? I think I'm going to say this is good enough for now. This isn't that bad. And it can always be fixed with a clear. So I think I don't want to spend like forever on this. So I think we're going to say that that kind of is working to some extent. It's not perfect, but it's not awful either. Okay, so let's get rid of some of these debug prints. Okay. I think everything else is reasonable. And we delete this unnecessary variable. Cargo format. Run our linter script. Is everything cool? 1283. He doesn't like that this isn't used. Okay, sure, whatever. Sure, fine. Get status, get add-u, get commit-m, implement, resize. I thought that was going to be really quick, but what a shit show. And let's just double check. Is there anything crazy in here? No, not there. Not there. Not there. That's like fine. Yeah, okay. Jesus. So we are now an hour and 24:20 in, and we're going to try to change the font size. Ooh, geez. Okay. Let's try. We look at our GUI, and what do we want to do? We want like some sort of like font size 12. What is like, well, first of all, let's check if eGUI supports font sizing. I don't actually know. But let's take a look. So what do we have here? We have font. Well, what are we doing to render fonts at all? We're doing something. Somewhere we have 2 fonts that we look at for like bold. Yeah. So we have terminal fonts, bold, and regular. And so these are font families. And we're replacing the family probably in like the text format, which means like the text format itself must have the text format. He has a font ID, and we're replacing the family though. So we replace font ID dot family. I see. So here he has a size in points. Perfect. Which means that we can kind of store our desired font size as a float, like they have, and I guess we pull like the default font size. So we have like somewhere, I guess we get the character size on first iteration of the like GUI loop, probably because we couldn't get it on construction, which means this also has to be like this. And maybe we kind of put this as font data, struct font data, and we pass character size and font size here. Font data option font data, so that we know like to do kind of like the whole thing at once. So if font data is none, we populate it. So we say that the character size is equal to font data, or this thing, get character size. Okay. Cool. And the font size is going to be something similar, I'm sure. Font ID comes from this. Does this really not exist before? Why do I have to do this? Oh, this is also fucked up. We shouldn't be using textile monospace here. We should be using this guy. Where does this come from? Font family. Let's think about this. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We are going to just set a default font size. Fuck whatever we just said we were gonna do. Undo. We're just gonna make it F32. We're gonna make the default size 12. Fine. And then something says to like that I should be able to get this stuff without having to use like a UI. I think that we can like undo this like option shit, simplify this. So this is, we should replace the family of the font with font family name default or regular font name. Yep. Okay, so we're using the correct font. All this should just work. And character size, let's just make this not an option anymore. Maybe we'll find out that this is actually important, but you know, maybe we won't. This is cc.eguictx, I think. Like this. Okay. And we don't need to do these like character size unwrap things. We can just use it normally. Okay. Okay. Let's see if that like crashes. Struct font data, that fucks shit up. Struct font data, delete this because it's a redefinition of something that already exists. Cool. No fonts available until first called context run. That's why we did that way. Okay, so we'll just put all of these, we'll put this option shit back in, but we'll still track the font size manually. I still don't really care about that. And instead, we will say when we get the character size, we're going to do it with font size. And we're going to construct the font ID manually. Wait, where does that... No fonts available until first call to context run. So this is at 706. Oh, that's the wrong spot. Okay, whatever. It's fine, it's fine. So now we can construct the font ID manually. So we'll say font ID. And we have the size as font size as an F32. And the family is this guy. And we'll call this font ID and delete this. Okay, which means that we need to import font ID. Cargo check. Does everything work? Does. Cargo run. Does everything work? Oopsies. Oopsies. Oh god, what did I just do? What did I just do? We're good. Cargo run. Does everything work? Yes. ls, ls, ls. Okay. And what was I trying to do? I was trying to change the font size. Okay, so I think all we have to do here is say UI, what's the, like, slider? Is a slider what I want? Maybe a drag value, I think, is something that exists here. Yeah, this sounds familiar. So you can say drag value. And this is going to be referencing font size. And how do I put this into the UI? Oh, UI.add, yeah. Okay. And probably here I want to set some sort of bounds. So clamp range. Like 0, like 1, 0, 1 to like 100? I don't know. Seems reasonable. And now, he doesn't like that. Why? Oh, because I forgot to comment here. Sure. Okay, so I have this like font size who clearly needs a label associated with him. Okay. So he needs to say like UI dot width layout, like, or horizontal. Yes. And then we put like a label before this guy. Font size like this. And then we should see on right click, we should see like a font size followed by font size 12. Yeah, okay, sure. Maybe he doesn't need the space. Okay. And then we just have to update. So here, maybe we just do this every time. Maybe we don't even cache the character size. Maybe we just calculate it every fucking time. Based off of the current font size. Which shouldn't be that expensive. Everybody uses the character size. It's just like, here you go, bud. And I wonder if that all just kind of works out. Somewhat. I mean, we're definitely growing and shrinking the cursor and like what the terminal thinks it can display, but we're not actually shrinking the font. So that's important. So somewhere, we just need to kind of shove that guy in here. Right? We would say, hey, this is the font size now, bitch. And and add terminal, we put it in here. Which means this guy needs a font size F32 and text format font ID size equal to font size. And then I think that should just work. And then what's nice is like with all of the resizing stuff we just did kind of like propagates for free, I think. Oh, hell yeah, baby. That's kind of nice. Yeah, I'll take that. That feels kind of good. Maybe like the minimum should be a little bit bigger than 1, but I guess like, you know, why limit yourself? That looks pretty good. Yeah, that feels pretty good. This is... Uh-oh. I don't like that at all, but that's fine. You know what? It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It does feel like the frame size is 1 too big. Like the scroll area is like not really fitting in there. So maybe we'll also just maybe add like width cars plus 0.5 or something, just to make sure that the padding is working out correctly. If there's like extra spacing that the scroll area needs for some reason, maybe that's causing some issues. Yeah, it does seem to be tracking a little better overall. I'm not sure. It seems like as we get bigger... whatever. So I'm like here. Yeah, sure. You know what? I'll take it. Oh, and then the last piece here was we can delete this like bullshit like set the whole thing to be too big. This like set pixels per point. We were like making the whole UI bigger before because like it was not really visible on stream with like 12-point font. Right? This is too small. But now I can just kind of be like, well, we'll make it bigger. Cool. Cool. I'll take it. I'll take it. That's, you know, almost usable. Almost usable. All right. So I thought today I'd be spending most of my time on this trying NeoVim shit, but clearly that's not the case, right? Oopsies. Clearly that's not the case. Because we're at 1 hour and 40, and all we've done is resize the terminal. But it just turns out that was harder than I thought it would be. So I'm okay with that for now. And so I think I'm just going to call it there for the day, because I don't think we're going to do anything interesting in the last 20 minutes. But if you like what you saw, I stream most days around 1 or 2 o'clock Pacific time for around 1 or 2 hours. If you miss a stream or you want to go back in time and see what else we've worked on, there's a YouTube link in the Twitch description. And if you're watching on YouTube and you want to swing by and say hi on Twitch, you should click the Twitch link in the YouTube description. Other than that, pretty pleased with what we got done. Well, I guess I shouldn't say I'm pleased with what we got done today. I'm okay with what we got done today. And so I think we'll just catch you on the next one. Bye.